Before we do anything, Mac, just a quick reminder for the people at home. We'll be at Idle Hands Craft Ales, 89 Commercial Street in Malden, Massachusetts, this coming Wednesday, November 8th, for Disney Trivia.
Yep. If you have seen a movie, most likely you've seen a Disney movie. So that qualifies you for our trivia next week. And based on our last one, it might be real competitive because Disney ones always are anyways. But
Yeah.
we had a tie in the final on our last one. So maybe we'll end up with another one this time. But looking forward to it.
Now, it'll be mostly animated, if not all animated. Don't forget that Pixar will be involved, and I wouldn't sleep on bed knobs and broomsticks.
Wow. A nice big market tease for the folks there.
If that doesn't get the kids there, I don't know what will. Mac,
what do you think about the timing of us doing Friends trivia 3 weeks ago and Matthew Perry dying? Do you think it's related?
I would say absolutely. Without a doubt in my mind, as a matter of fact.
Okay. All right. I just figured I'd have to ask that.
Yeah. Well, Mac, as you may or may not know, I have a 3-year-old son, and maybe the greatest perk of having a child is now getting back into Legos.
So do you mean like buying Legos, or are you actually now building them?
Well, you buy them and you build them. Usually you buy them for him.
Yeah.
And then you build them. And, you know, as a 3-year-old, he's a little psychopath, just takes everything apart immediately.
You're going to just start super gluing random ones so he can't get them apart.
Right. And, you know, born in 1989, we didn't really have the sets, like the licensed sets of like all these great IPs that now work with Lego. So
yeah,
the world is my oyster.
Yeah, I remember specifically my favorite set as a kid was this castle one that came with its own like base that was a non-Lego base that you built on.
Mm-hmm.
And I had so much fun building that. I specifically remember I'm probably like days, if not a week into building it, because you know you are a kid and it's tough to follow directions and whatnot. But I remember getting really close, like final pages of build. That I pushed down too hard on one of the walls and it like ripped open one of the walls and I had to go all the way back. It was one of the more frustrating memories I've ever had.
Wait a second. Was this the castle set with the horses, the knights?
Yes.
There's like a jail cell.
Yep.
Oh, that's the one that I had too.
It was so good.
But we had it at my grandfather's house, and he would only let us use it if he was sitting there with us.
I'm glad you mentioned the horses because now I have a vivid image of those Lego horses. The knights with the little plastic silver helmet. Yeah.
And there were some like glow in the dark ghosts too.
Yes. Yeah.
It was spooky as shit.
Exact same set. Yep. Yeah.
But I think the best thing about buying Legos now is that when you buy them, the people that work at the Lego store make you feel like you're smart, like you're like you've done something really good. Like the other day,
great decision going with Lego today.
The other day, I bought a Christmas set. I have like fucking 5 Christmas sets now because we're gonna, you know, build them up for December. That'll be our new tradition. Legos at Christmas.
Sure.
But as I was buying this $100 set, the guy at the register is like, "Great choice. This is gonna sell out. It's a really smart idea." And I'm like, fuck, he's right.
Yeah, you're like, oh, is there anything else I should get?
I was like, wait a second. Are there any more Christmas sets? Do I need another one?
What am I missing?
One, goo, 3, yeah. Goo. Jaws 3. Goo. King of Queens. Goo. Meryl Streep. Entertainment.
Yeah, I'm Goo.
And I'm Mac.
And we're the Mac and Goo program. We bring you college friendship.
I will say, now, you know, we both went to colleges. One is still around.
I did not go to college.
One's still around. One's not. I'll let you decide who's disappeared. But I have to say, the 4 years I spent in college completely and fundamentally changed me as a human being. I may never use my degrees ever again or ever one time, but the growing up experience alone, I think is worth it for a lot of kids. A lot in the same way, like some people grow up getting sent off to the military. That's sort of what college was for me, just much more expensive. So something that this show does, we're talking about Gen V today, folks, is make the boys' world a little more relatable. That was one of the main things I really liked about this season.
Well, it's also bigger, and you're, seeing more of like the minor league system of what they're dealing with.
Yes, for sure. There's a good deal of world building going on here, Goo.
Now, not to pull too far behind the curtain of myself, but I did not go to a traditional 4-year school, Mac. I was an electrician for a while. I went to school for that. I then went to art school. But as you said, you kind of learned who you were in your 4-year degree. I would say that if I were to have gone to a normal college, a 4-year college, I might have died.
Well, I've always said I was deciding between I went to Assumption College, Worcester, Massachusetts. Decent school, whatever, nothing to write home about. What I was deciding between was that and UMass Amherst, which is on the opposite end of the spectrum. Small private Catholic institution, massive, top 10 party school in the country. I think I would have died if I went to UMass. You and I both had some real questionable things.
You knew me during my, I would say, rockier years.
Yeah.
Do you think that I would have survived the 4 years?
No, if you went to a place like UMass Amherst, most likely not. I don't think I would have either. I think we both had moments where we were doing dumb shit and drinking too much, as a lot of, late teen, early 20s people do. But I think the relatable thing in this show, it's not necessarily the university thing, is a young person trying to find their path, trying to figure out their meaning. And that's what this show, that's the relatable aspect of this show for sure.
And Mac, once again, this show is Gen V. It is a spinoff of The Boys, but you say spinoff, it's really more of an intertwined, almost just another season of The Boys, but with different characters.
Yeah, when this show was first announced, and even when I first started watching this show 8 weeks ago, and even when we were talking about it 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, I was hoping for more spinoff and less tie-in. And now that we're at the end, it's basically another season of The Boys. And I guess I'm glad it is at the end. I wasn't
at the end of it, and we'll get into this with spoilers, but at the end of this, at the end of my couch, I'm sitting going, how are these guys going to now play into the story? I didn't know that I needed these people in that story, but now I'm like, this is awesome.
I agree. They fucking swerved us in the hardest way in the finale, and I fucking loved that they did that in in an insanely frustrating way that really only a show like The Boys has been able to do before. They do it again here, and it's, I don't know. This show is just, to me, I've said it before. When I finish episodes of this show, I'm like, man, there's nothing like this on television. It's like head and shoulders above everything else right now.
Give me nuts and bolts.
All right, Goo. Gen V is a Prime Video show. It is rated TVMA. It is all sorts of things, but it has it listed here as an action, adventure, comedy, drama, and sci-fi, which it is all of those things and does all of those. Although I will say, Goo, one of the distinguishing things between this and a season of The Boys, a lot less humor in this. There's some, but a lot less.
I would, there's a couple.
Yeah.
There's no, really big laugh out loud moment.
There's some funny moments, but nothing's hilarious, and that's intentional. Goo, this was 8 episodes totaling about 375 minutes, which equals about 47 minutes an episode, which is, I think, a very good, both the episodes 8 and the runtime length per episode, 45 to 50 minutes is like the sweet spot. That's perfect.
I don't think we needed any more, and if we had gotten less, I think we would have had more questions. I think they used their time properly.
I think you can say this about the first 3 seasons of The Boys and this. When you finish the season, you're satisfied and left wanting more. Yes. They've done it really good 4 times now, although season 2, maybe not on the level of these other 3.
Season 2 of The Boys might have been the only one where I wasn't blown away by it. I liked it, but I was like, okay, that wasn't quite as good as the newish feel of 1, but then 3 brought you right back into that.
Yeah, Boys, season 2, when you're now looking back on it, especially, it feels there's feels like we wasted some moments in there that
Yeah.
they're ended up being meaningless. Go on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Gen V has 97% from the critics, 75% from the audience, which is bizarre. I don't know, and we saw this with season 3 of The Boys, actually. 98% from the critics, 75% from the audience. I don't know who's watching Gen V that are mostly coming from The Boys and not liking this. I don't understand that. How is a quarter of the people not liking this?
Is it a comic reader thing?
Is there a Gen V comic?
Isn't it
I'm
just
sure
The
there
Boys?
is.
We should have
I
looked that up. We
don't
should
know.
have looked
I have
that
no
up.
idea, but it's weird, especially in contrast. Season 1 of The Boys, 85% from the critics, 90% from the audience. So 9/10 of the people at that time liked it. So maybe it's just a volume thing. Maybe more people are watching, and now
That could be it.
that leads to less people liking it. Who knows? Season 2,
That's why we get
97
more 1-star reviews, because it's more people. That's all it is. That's the only reason
Season
why.
2, 97% from the critics, 82% from the audience. So we're
Yes.
seeing the critics are kind of all around the same these last 3, 97, 98, 97. The audience has been kind of steadily going down. Grew on Metacritic. This has a 73 compared to the 3 seasons of The Boys, which are 74 for season 1, 80 for season 2, which I think is actually like definitively the worst season out of these 4. But
I would say, yeah.
that's
But I'd
weird.
still have it on the Mount Rushmore.
It's still in the same, like roughly in the same tier.
Mhm.
You know, it's not that far off. That was a good Rushmore joke because there's only 4. There's only 4 to choose from.
Thank you for explaining the joke. You know what I said yesterday? Because someone said a joke and then no one laughed, and I'm like, if they don't understand the joke, they don't deserve to laugh.
Season 3, a 77. So again, all of these are operating in roughly the same territory. Goo, this show a bit different from The Boys, where Eric Kripke is the main showrunner there, creator of the show. Of course, he was from Supernatural. He created that show. And Goo, he also wrote that Clocky Walls movie, which was terrible.
There's a clock in my wall.
And of course, he's the main contributor there at The Boys. It's an even split here, at least as far as the credits go. Evan Goldberg, Eric Kripke, and Craig Rosenberg. We know Evan Goldberg all too well as well. He is Seth Rogen's writing partner. You'd know him from the Ali G show, Superbad, Pineapple Express. This is the End. He also did Preacher and Goo. He was the writer on TMNT Mutant Mayhem. So that's a big win for you. Craig Rosenberg here is a little newer to us. He wrote The Preacher and also has been writing The Boys. So this show obviously is in very good hands because the people that made The Boys are making this show. Then, of course, we have to mention The Boys, the comic book series, and I'm assuming Gen V is based on the comic book series by Garth Ennis, who obviously probably doesn't get enough credit that he deserves on our level. Goo, this show had 7 directors, not worth mentioning. The directing didn't help or hurt this show, so we'll move on from that. Synopsis. From the world of The Boys comes Gen V, which explores the first generation of superheroes to know that their superpowers are from Compound V. These heroes put their physical and moral boundaries to the test, competing for the school's top ranking. Not a great synopsis for what actually happened, but a good introduction to this show.
Yeah, because early on, it really is, feeling guilt for what might have happened in your life, but then realizing that the people that you feel guilty about, doing stuff to, they're the reason why it happened.
Right. Very good point. Goo, this show stars Jazz Sinclair as Marie Moreau. Apparently, there's an Easter egg from The Boys season 3 where we see her picture on a computer screen when Huey's at the adoption agency or whatever. So that's a nice little Easter egg. Chance Perdomo as Andre Anderson, Lizzie Broadway as Marie's roommate, Emma Meyer, Maddie Phillips as Kate Dunlap, London Thor as Jordan Lee, also Derek Liu as Jordan Lee. This is the first time I've ever seen a character like that. I really liked that. They don't necessarily explain how those powers work, and that's totally fine, but I really like that dynamic.
Yeah, I think they'll explain that one more, and then also, who is Ant-Woman?
That's Emma.
Frankie? Yeah, I want them to explain her stuff a little bit more because you get something new in the final episode.
Yeah.
Is there more going on here?
Yeah, she's really still discovering, and all these people are really still discovering their abilities and honing them. Asa German as Sam Riordan. Riordan? Is that how you pronounce that? Riordan sounds right to me.
Like Eddie Riordan?
That's our main crew of young adults.
Yes.
We also get Shelley Kahn as Dean and Indira Shetty. She was pretty good. Alexander Calvert as Rufus. He is like the blonde telepath psychic guy who has an incredible moment in the middle of this season. Maya J. Bastidas as Justine. She's the social media one that like dupes Emma at the beginning. She's a real son of a bitch. Yeah. Good. Patrick Schwarzenegger, the Arnie's son, plays Golden Boy here. We expected him at the beginning of this season to play a much bigger role ultimately than what he does, but a large role he plays nonetheless. Sean Patrick Thomas as Polarity. That's Andre's father. Marco Pagosi as Dr. Edison Cardosa. He's the one in the Woods laboratory sort of working on this whole thing. Dan Byrne plays social media Jeff. He's the one that is sort of in charge of dealing with all the God U top 10. Clancy Brown as Professor Rich Brinkeroff. He mates an incredible demise early on. Colby Minifee pops up as Ashley Barrett in a couple episodes. We also get 3 cameos here that they're not spoilers because they were well known. Claudia Dumet as Victoria Newman, Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy, and Anthony Starr as Homelander. I would say of those 3, if we didn't know the Homelander one, that would have been probably pretty good, but everything's spoiled these days.
I didn't like his haircut. It was a little off. It was a little off.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe he's been busy. You never know.
Yeah.
Goo, I'm going to give a synopsis for what this season really was as opposed to introduction. So we are introduced to the world of the boys from a new perspective. We now get to see what it's like to sort of live in this world as a non-superhero. You get some of that in the boys, but these are young adults who aren't operating as superheroes. And this is especially important because now all of these young adults, these kids, these adults, know that the only reason they have these powers or curses is because their parents opted to sign up with Vought and give them Compound V as a baby. That's a huge change from the prior boys seasons, where obviously that's revealed in season 3. We are particularly focused on Godolkin University, aka God U, and our main protagonist, Marie Moreau, whose powers include, or really just are, being able to manipulate blood into whatever she wants and what she can imagine. And during the season, as it goes on, she does greater things with that. The university itself is run by Vought, who we know is a really bad corporation anyways, but we come to find out they're even worse than we imagined and are running like these wild tests and experiments on children in the secret basement laboratory of the university known as the Woods. Marie and her friends discover and uncover the secret of the Woods and attempt to reveal it to the world and bring justice to those who have done poorly, done bad, the really bad guys.
That's pretty good, Mac.
Thank you. Thank you, Gil.
Any other opening thoughts before we do the octagon?
Just to like capture, like I think some people, this was my attitude going into the season. I thought it was going to be a tier below the boys. I thought it was just going to be like a nice little add-on. It'll be fun to keep playing in that world. But this really belongs in the boys conversation. Like it's not of lesser quality. It's up to snuff with the boys. It doesn't have the high highs as we've seen in the boys, but the pacing's really good in this. The writing's really good. And it's definitively more serious throughout, but that's intentional and for good reason. Especially, I don't know if it'll be as serious as we go on, but season 1, it needed to be. I think some people might say it's the 4th best out of these 4 seasons.
Yeah, which is fine.
But it still belongs in that conversation. I think I would have it ranked 3rd of the 4 we've seen so far. Dude, do you want me to tell you what our dog scores were for the other 3 seasons or wait a little bit?
No, tell me because I have completely forgot.
Okay, I did the research on this one. Good. This is the real legwork I did here. Season 1 of the boys, we both gave 38 hot dogs. So really loved it. Didn't quite get to 40. Season 2, I gave it borderline 35, 36. You gave it 37. So definitely a drop off.
I think it's a smidge high for me. I would drop it. I would Halloween it a little bit.
Yeah, I think 35, 36 is right there. Season 3, we both had it at 39. Really wanted it to be 40. It just fell a smidge short. But I think we both agreed it was the best of the 3 seasons. This season is not 40 dogs, but I think
that's a good tease.
I think it's above season 2. It's somewhere in between season 2 and seasons 1 and 3. I think I'll probably do one. I think I like seasons 1 and 3 of The Boys more than this season, but not by much.
All right, Mac, let's get into the octagon here. And the first one up is fun factor. And what I found to be very fun, and at first you're like, these powers are gross, but they end up being pretty cool. And they're very teenage oriented, where, one of the characters has to cut themselves to use her powers, or one has to binge or overeat. And that also plays with her emotion as well. So that's another thing that kids deal with. And then, gender stuff. So like there's a lot of what their powers are.
Heavy stuff
exactly
going on.
Growing up stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So that cuts into the fun factor for sure, especially when you weigh it against some of the shit we've seen in the 3 seasons of The Boys. But I find myself, and I sort of alluded to this at the top, I just have fun operating in this world as a viewer, even though the on-screen stuff isn't necessarily fun. This show is so much different than everything else that I'm watching that I have fun watching it.
Satisfactor, and I didn't think I was going to be this satisfied by the end of the season.
I agree with you, Goo. I am pretty damn satisfied with the end of the season and still wanting more. They did it again. They crushed it.
Boreometer, were you bored? I wasn't bored, but I didn't necessarily love. I think there was like 1 or 2 missteps, and we'll get into that in spoilers, but I wasn't bored.
Yeah, there's a couple storylines in here that maybe don't hit as well as others. But I felt like the pacing was really strong. Maybe the most well-paced of the 4 seasons so far.
Aquator, it's better than Aquaman.
Yeah, faux show.
Halloween. 2 of the seasons have not Halloween for me, but 1 has. So it's tough to say if this one will as well.
Yeah, so this is does have a little bit of season 2 in it, in that like season 2 now looking back almost serves as like a build up for season 3. They kind of push off a lot of the Homelander stuff into season 3. This doesn't push anything off, but it really just serves to build into The Boys season 4. So there might be some wane there.
You know what? I think it weans or wanes. I don't even know what the fuck the word is, but I think it drops off if they don't use these characters in the other show. Like if it doesn't intertwine as much as we think it will.
Yeah, and we were told prior to this finale that this will set up The Boys season 4, and The Boys season 4 will play directly into Gen V season 2. But now that I'm saying that, after you just said that, if these characters get buried until Gen V season 2, that's going to be a little disappointing.
I would say so. Pants, Tent City, Excite Bike Mania. Did anything get you going?
So it does not quite reach the highs of The Boys. However, there are 3 or 4 spectacular scenes during this season that like just make you grin with laughter. Like, not that they're funny, but they're so cool or so good that you have a shit-eating grin on your face. I don't want to say any of them because they're spoilers, but they're great.
Like if I asked you for a top 10 from these 4 seasons moments, like, Excite Bike Mania moments.
Yeah.
What would there be 1 from this show?
I think maybe 2. Maybe 2. Yeah, for sure 1, maybe 2.
Max Credit Union, who are you giving credit to?
I got to give credit to the creators. Now, listen, all the actors are good in here, but the creators, to maintain the wide vision and to introduce this new story and these new characters while not cheapening or lessening anything in this world is truly impressive. This really does fit in and then some with The Boys.
I mean, really, the creators, the writers, the actors portraying the characters. What I love the most about this show is that I think it might have been episode 7 where I sat back and said, wait a second, who am I rooting for?
Yeah,
I had completely forgot that the soups that we have in The Boys are complete pieces of shit, and they're pretty much the bad guys, and you're rooting for the boys. And then episode 7, I'm like, wait a second, should I be rooting for this person?
Right. It's one of those rare shows where you simultaneously kind of like and kind of hate everyone. Everyone's kind of a bad guy except for a few. But the good people are also doing kind of bad stuff.
No, the person that was operating as the bad guy in this show was actually operating just like the boys were operating. So you're like, wait, that person is actually the good guy, I think.
Right. And then in episodes 7 and 8, when they pit the friend group that we've been rooting for this whole time against each other, you're like, fuck, I kind of agree with both sides here. This is pretty good.
But also neither side.
Yes, right.
For those of you tardy to the Mac and Goo party, we rate everything on a 40 hot dog rating system, Mac. Like I said, I wish it would have been a little bit funnier, but also it didn't need it to be funnier. I think it would have just got pushed more to like a 40 dog potential with a little more humor. I really, really liked this. There was one issue I had with the intrigue of the show where they kind of gave us something maybe a half an hour too soon, and they could have let it be a little more organic and like play into the story as opposed to just giving us something. Like I said, I love the off-putting powers. I think that plays really well with the teen focus. Marie is a great character. I love her as a leading character. Like I said, I really like how I don't know who I'm rooting for here. Who's going to win? Who do I want to win? I don't know. And I also, and I texted you this, is like, you realize that Homelander might be the best case scenario Homelander. Like, he understands the game and he understands what he's doing, where there could be a more unhinged, completely, what is,
we saw that.
like,
Stormfront. Stormfront was the representation of that.
But I think we got another character here that is even more. Like,
True.
even someone that doesn't understand how to play the game or how to manipulate people. It's just he has the powers and he doesn't know what to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Where that's a lot more of like a Brightburn, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I really like that. I have this at 37 hot dogs.
Oh, Goo, it's fucking what makes us similar that makes us great.
And that's really why people hate us.
To sort of make up for the lack of humor, which The Boys definitely contains pretty much every episode. What this show did was make the subject matter a little more relatable as much as you could, operating in a world with supes and villains like this. It was cool to see the world building here and widening our scope. And I just like watching everything in this world. Now, it does really serve mostly as a lead-in for season 4 of The Boys. Mm-hmm. So that does knock it down a little bit because I feel like it lacks a major banger at the end here. Mm-hmm. And it also may lack that rewatchability. So I'm trying to gauge that now. However, I loved pretty much every episode. It was not boring at all. There's some great moments. Like, it's just, I have a hard time finding stuff bad or stuff that I didn't like. It was more so it just didn't quite get up to 11 in some of the moments like The Boys do. So I also have this at 37 hot dogs, but it could wane a little bit if it just operates more as the world builder and you don't really want to come back and rewatch some stuff.
Let me ask you a question. I know at Wessie B or Sideman West, I'm not sure what his Twitter handle is at the moment, his X handle. But he brought up Seth Rogen, and how he's really played into so many comic book properties. Mm-hmm. If I were to ask you, if I nominated him to get into the Dork Hall of Fame next year, would you vote him in?
I mean, it'd be hard to turn him down. I will say, I think he's an EP on this show.
Yes.
He's got nothing to do with the creation, more or less. So, wouldn't you have to prioritize Goldberg over Rogen, though?
But you're looking at it like he's the EP producer on like this, Invincible, Preacher, TMNT. So he has his hands in so many properties. It seems like
he's really good at in most create. I won't say this. I was gonna say most creative.
Don't call him DJ Khaled.
No.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that are uber talented.
Yeah.
That have a really hard time stepping out of the way and selecting people or teaching people, showing people. It seems like Seth Rogen knows when to step in and step out. He knows to hire the right people and really cares about stuff so much so that he knows that he's not the best at something. Like, he very easily could have probably kicked the door down and been a writer on this season, and he wasn't. So you got to give him credit for like getting out of the way and just sort of making things go. And that one of the best things about Steven Spielberg in the last 30 years, yes, he's a great director. he's really good at making things go, funding projects, helping out on projects, but stepping back and not directing, not writing things. It's a really underrated thing that a lot of people don't do in the industry.
Shall we get into spoilers?
Let's do it.
Spoilers. I guess the first thing that I would like to point out, and I've kind of made reference to it a couple times, I think it might have been episode 5 when it was revealed that who is the touchy girl with the hand?
Kate.
So when it was revealed that Kate was pretty much behind most of what was happening all along.
Yep. She's the one that makes everyone forget.
They gave it away like a half an hour too soon. Like so we found out before the characters found out. I wish that we found out with the characters.
Yep. That's fair. Because there's a whole little cat and mouse chase during that whole episode.
Yeah.
And before the characters do. You also were suspicious of Kate anyways because of a couple things that happened in prior episodes. But I think it works because you don't want that to be a major wow moment because she still has to function.
I wanted it. But
she still has to function as a part of the group going forward. So for the viewer, if that's a major wow moment, it's really hard to accept her as a part of that group going forward.
I would have liked it. Also, I loved her hand being blown up.
Oh, that's one of my two favorite moments during the season.
Yes.
Was blonde dude's cock getting blown off. That was incredible. And then in the moment, because Marie is still figuring out what she can and can't do, which is also an awesome thing in episode 7, you learn that Victoria Newman's power is the same as Marie's. So we knew her as the head popper, but really what she can do is manipulate blood. So we know in the end game, other than Homelander, Victoria Newman's probably the most powerful, and that means Marie's going to be at the top of the food chain too, which is really cool to think about and really interesting to think about going forward. So but we see her greatest moment here in the finale, her preventing Kate from who was she going to reach out to? Andre, I believe, was it?
Andre. It might have been Andre.
I forget who she's going out to reach, but Marie can't get there and doesn't have time to cut her own blood or use more blood, which she had used in the scene right before. But she explodes Kate's arm, and it's fucking awesome. It's so cool.
Do you think if Homelander, by the way, Homelander shows up at the end, he's like, what are you, an animal? You're attacking your own kind. Do you think if he knew how potentially powerful Marie was or is, he would have tried to kill her as opposed to just kind of knock her out?
Well, that's the question in the back of my mind that's been lingering now for 2 seasons of The Boys, at least, and now this season. Can Victoria Newman kill Homelander if she wanted to? Is that a possibility?
I think there's a possibility.
So that means Marie could hypothetically, but
maybe
the Homelander cameo at the end of this season, I was thrown off at first by his dialogue. I'm like, wait, what the hell's going on here? And then you fucking remember that they're so good at swerving you. Like they come in, and of course, Vought's behind this, trying to protect their own ass. That's a truly great swerve. Homelander shows up, and if they didn't bring Homelander in, you would have been asking where the hell he is, like we do a lot of the times in these Marvel shows. The Marie and friends her crew gets framed for all the killings. They get locked away in this room facility, no windows, no doors. I love this so much because it's incredibly frustrating, but in the best way. And that's what this show does so well.
Do you look at Schwarzenegger in this role much like Drew Barrymore in Scream?
It's a lot like that because as far as people build for this show, even though we don't know many things he's done, him being Arnold Schwarzenegger's son, you're like, oh, he's probably fit for a big role. And then episode 2 culminates in him unaliving himself.
I guess my biggest question from this season is, do you believe that Ryan, Homelander's son, would go to God U, or would he LeBron James it and just skip?
It's a LeBron James thing. I don't think they need to expose Ryan to any of that. They just need him to watch and learn from Homelander. And moreover, like if you put him into that population, he could potentially be poisoned. And I think by letting Homelander handle him, hopefully he turns into another Homelander. That's what they're hoping for. But I think the obvious downside there is he grows to hate Homelander, you know.
And your favorite part of the season was when Ant Girl was on the dick, right?
That was unbelievable. Episode 1, just as they did in season 3. of The Boys, the opening where you have someone who can shrink down inside of a penis. This time we have Emma basically giving a full body hand job at the tip of a penis. It was unbelievable.
Body job.
The visuals. This is an all-time great having to explain yourself show. If someone walked into the room at certain moments of the show, you have to like pause the show and explain what you're watching because it's so fucked up.
I guess, would you recommend this to somebody?
I would recommend this to a lot of people, but it would have to, like, anyone that listens to our podcast, I think should watch this show if they haven't.
Yeah.
But this would be a hard one to recommend to like your parents or something. People that aren't,
well, maybe not my parents, but your
just
dad,
in general,
maybe.
like people that aren't accustomed to like outright explicit sexual stuff and violent stuff. Like the generation above us may not be as open to this show as ourselves and the generation below us.
You know what though? Like, I wouldn't recommend The Boys to my brother, but I would recommend this to him.
Ah, that's interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, so this definitely has more heart to it underneath because I think Marie is the most likable character out of any of the characters we've been introduced to. And part of that is because she hasn't been given the chance to commit a lot of the shitty acts that we've seen the people in The Boys commit. But I think her being the heart of the show helps it a ton.
This is also just a dirty WB show.
Do you think that people who make the DC WB shows, CW shows, or even the DC HBO Max shows, and you know what? The people that make the Marvel Disney Plus shows sit back and go, fuck. Like, I wish we could do this. I wish this was us. Because this show knocks it out of the park better than any Marvel show, any DC show. Like, as much as you love the Netflix Daredevil shows, and as much as we love Loki season 1, which I guess would probably be our best Marvel show, this is definitively better than those.
Yeah, so if I'm picking superhero shows, I'm going The Boys, number 1, I think. And this is just off the top of my mind. I haven't really thought it out.
Yeah.
The Boys, then Daredevil, then Loki? Trying to think. Like, that might be what it is.
If you wanted to do individual seasons, like you could probably prop up a Daredevil season, the first season of Loki, even Jess Jones season 1. But on the whole, nothing has been consistently as great as this.
I would agree with you. I would completely agree. Mac, do you want to run through some episodes?
Yeah, well, just real quick, we'll run through the season. So the first episode, we get introduced to Marie, her backstory, which is horrible. Like that, it immediately gets you behind her and you root for her and you feel sad for her. You get like Godolkin's introduction and whatnot. Episode 2, first day. This is where Golden Boy unalives himself, and you get a really cool fight scene between Golden Boy, Jordan, and some other characters.
My hands are up. Both my hands.
Go ahead, go.
Also, credit to Amazon giving us 3 episodes out the gate.
Yeah,
they've done that with every Boys season.
That was great. Yep.
Yes.
Good call on that. I agree. Episode 3, Think Brink. #ThinkBrink, this was called. This is where they do the tribute to the Professor Clancy Brown, who they call Brink. But what really happens in this episode is all of the characters are trying to figure out why the fuck that happened. And of course, it's because of the Woods, his brother Sam. That leads into episode 4, The Whole Truth. This, to me, was probably the worst episode of the season, but was still pretty good. Ted Knight comes sniffing around. He interviews everyone, and it really just serves as a way to get from characters from point A to point B. And, of course, Marie ends up getting all the credit for defeating Golden Boy.
Also, Sam is the character that could be a Homelander or have a Homelander-like strength, but he's a bit unhinged. He doesn't understand entirely what's going on.
Yeah, we don't know his full capabilities or what he's weak to, really. So that is him and Marie, as far as soups and powers go, easily 2 of the more intriguing.
I will say though, there was a part in episode 8 where he was closing a door at the camp, whatever it's called, and it looked like he was straining to close the door. I'm like, I thought he was strong.
Episode 5, Welcome to the Monster Club. This is the episode where it's the cat and mouse game. We find out Kate's actually the one that made everyone forget, and they all find out towards the end of this episode, which leads into episode 6, the very aptly named Jumanji, because everyone gets stuck in Kate's memories But they also intertwine some of the other people's memories in there, which is pretty cool. And this is where we got the Soldier Boy cameo as well, that was one of the funnier moments of the season.
But also just kind of a throwaway.
Yeah. That was just to say, hey, here's Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy. And then episode 7, they really ramp up. 7 and 8 were phenomenal. Episode 7, Sick. Now that they're all working together, they've accepted Kate because they learn how truly shitty her life was too. We see them going to attack the woods and free everyone there. And we learn that Shetty and the woods have been developing this virus or weapon to use against the Supes, and which is the major ramification from the season.
This is the part of the season where I'm like, oh, fuck Shetty. I'm like, oh, wait, no. She's trying to control the Supes.
Right. You're like, okay, oh, wait, the Supes, like Homelander's out of hand, and like this might be the only way to defeat Homelander.
That was the part where I'm like, okay, wait a second.
Right.
I am rooting for her.
Yes,
but
it's
also,
weird. It's
I don't
a weird
care
dynamic.
For her. Yeah.
It's truly, they do such a good job of it, because you're right. From the 3,000 yard view, she's doing the right thing, probably. You know? Now, I don't know if the ends justify the means, but ultimately that might be the only way to take down a Homelander, and that's really what the goal's been the whole time.
We really like our 4 main characters. We like Sam. We like all these, and then you're like, oh, wait a second, they might turn into, much like Kate does, like into the rest of the Supes.
And so what happens in the comics, Goo, is Billy Butcher utilizes that virus to take out Homelander, but it also takes out all the Supes, and I think that's how the comic ends, or something to that effect. So that, like, it's interesting. It's an interesting dynamic, because we like watching what's going on, but ultimately there has to be an end game here in this series, and it might be like the comic book. It might be along this virus line.
You ready for this?
What?
Oh, bloody hell. That was me, guys. It wasn't
also in this episode, pretty loaded episode. Victoria Newman pops up, and we learn that her and Marie,
I get it. I get it.
Her and Marie have the same powers. And so when you see that, you're like, oh, holy fuck. Like, Marie doesn't know her full potential. But then when you realize her potential is Victoria Newman, you're like, oh,
but
shit.
Also,
like,
we should have known this when she blew up the dick.
Yeah, but you didn't really because Newman
because you were so focused on the dick.
That's the other thing this show gives us. We're always clamoring for more cocks, and we get it in this show. More cocks.
After watching this, and it's a lot like after watching like the later seasons of Game of Thrones, where like they don't really show boobs anymore. It's pretty much just dicks.
It's cock-centric.
It's a lot
the best
of cock.
kind of television.
Yeah, it's mostly cocks.
So Newman takes the virus off the hands of I forget who she kills in the parking lot there. Oh, Cardoso, the lab guy.
Oh, that was another part that I was like, that's kind of stupid. He walks into the office and just says what the plan is.
Yeah.
What is this, fucking Scooby-Doo?
And we also learn that, and this is something you sort of might have thought about, at least I did. Shetty reveals shortly before Kate has her unalive herself that God U was created by Vought just as a way to study Supes and figure out basically how to beat them and learn more about them and their powers. Yeah. And then, of course, you get the great scene where Kate forces Shetty to kill herself, and the group is divided amongst whether that's the right thing to do or not.
Oh, also, I might have been episode 4 or 5, but Sam running through the hall and destroying those puppets. Fantastic scene.
Phenomenal. I'm glad you brought that up. I can't believe we almost didn't mention that. The puppet fight scene I thought was amazing. Maybe some people didn't like it, but I thought it was fucking awesome. Really cool visual.
Fantastic. Love
and then when it cuts back, like when you're out of his mind and you see like all the gore, you're like, oh, that's pretty fucking cool. We get to the finale here, and amongst the group, it's Sam and Kate on the same side because they seem to have been the most tortured by the Woods and Vought. So they're there. And then you have Maria, Emma, and Jordan not wanting to basically become who they hated. So that's the split. Andre's off at the hospital with his dad. Sam and Kate go and free all the kids from the woods, and that leads to pretty phenomenal deaths.
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos is the word. Absolute chaos on campus. We do learn that Hollow Boy is Translucent Sun, which the internet kind of figured out very early on. And then we get the great scene of Marie popping Kate's arm, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Because you didn't know what was going to come of that scene, and that happens. And then immediately after, Homelander comes flying in, and you're like, oh, what's going to happen here? because to your point, Goo, you don't really know which way it's going to go because they've muddied the waters so much. So you don't know if Homelander's going to come and fuck Kate up or fuck Marie up. What's he do? He laser eyes Marie, and somehow she survives.
Well, I was going to ask, so was his laser set to stun? Or did he try and kill her and she just has the ability to take that heat breath?
I think she is so powerful with the blood stuff that she's able to move or put herself back together. Like, I think as long as her brain is working, she's able to sort of like help, because
almost like a Wolverine, where like even if like one part of him is still alive, he could regenerate.
I think if her brain is functioning, she can kind of make everything come back together, and that's why she was trying to save Shetty in the episode before. So we get this great swerve with Homelander, and then we see the news reports of these 4 have now been pinned with all of the killings on campus. They're framed for that, and then they're locked away in a room or facility that has no windows or doors. So that actually makes me believe. Well, it doesn't make me believe. You have to wonder if they're in a room with no windows or doors. Are they in someone's head? Is that Kate's head? Like, because how the fuck would they have gotten in there? It's a really weird thing. But I loved this finale so much because it swerved me. It was frustrating, but in a good way for the story's sake. There's just no show doing that as well as The Boys is doing it right now.
Let me also ask you, the character that was pretty much Nightcrawler, that was like telepathing to like different spots.
Yeah.
He was just going like 3 feet forward every time, right?
Yeah,
like he wasn't really. Yeah, I was like, this fucking stinks.
So maybe that's how they get them inside that room too. I was thinking.
No. I think it's more that they were just pointing out how dumb that power is.
Yeah. But he also
even though Nightcrawler is fucking dope,
he couldn't get out of his cell. So I don't know why. Yeah, his power is not great. And then we get a mid-credit scene here, Goo, with Billy the Butcher, him walking into like the remains of the woods.
You ready for this? Oh, bloody hell.
But clearly that means those 4 aren't at the woods. They're at a different facility, number 1. But number 2, this sort of plays into what may be the conclusion of the series, which echoes the conclusion of the comic book series, where he gets his hand on the virus and basically ends everything. But this show just leaves me wanting more.
Yeah,
it's so rare to have that in a show, and obviously all the best shows do that. But I fucking love this world, this show. We keep saying, I guess it's not one and the same as The Boys because it is called Gen V, but for homekeeping stuff, this is essentially The Boys.
No, and I think this show really does show that it's not just the characters in The Boys that we love. It is this world, because this was more of a murder mystery as opposed to being that action comedy.
Yeah, and that's a good point too. You know, season 1 is sort of the shock and awe, getting to see this stuff for the first time, and we're introduced to a real or a quasi real world scenario. What might happen if Supes were alive in our world, where you get the corporate America and how corrupt it can all be. And that season kind of lacks a big bang at the end too, which keeps it from being 40-ish. And then season 2, we get that stuff, but sort of kicked up a notch. But they sort of kick the can down the road with Homelander. You get the Stormfront stuff, and really they're just trying to keep Ryan from Homelander all season. And then at the end, Ryan kills his mother and Butcher's love. We also learn Newman's the head popper in that season, but that season really lacked the pants tent for me compared to season 1 or season 3.
I think that season just lacks the newish feel that the first season had.
Yeah, there's some of that too. And then season 3, they flip it and reverse it. They're trying to flip the game on its head.
Philadelphia.
They're trying to finally defeat Vought and Homelander. The annoying part, and I think what keeps that from being a 40-dog season, is everyone's still alive at the end, right? You're like, how the fuck is that possible? It doesn't make a lot of sense other than you want to make another season.
But season 3 as well. So Anthony Starr has been great throughout all of these, but in season 3 especially, he was amazing.
He was so good. And it really marked, you see it a little bit with the Stormfront stuff.
Yeah.
But he is actually asked to do some nuanced acting, and he does. In season 1, he doesn't have to. In season 1, he's unhinged, one-note character, but that changes from season 2 to season 3.
I think it was it was Honest Trailer, so Screen Junkies. that pointed out that Homelander Anthony Starr is like the best jaw actor.
Yeah, he's
Like
very good at that. Yeah.
you see his jaw back here like
The
constantly like
muscles moving.
yeah, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
what's this guy
For sure.
thinking? Yeah,
But the main takeaway from season 3 is like, all right, we're nearing a conclusion.
yeah.
And I'm super excited to see Soldier Boy versus Homelander Volume 2. And now, as an addendum to that, I'm super excited to see how our God You characters and this virus play into it all. Now, they have not announced a Boys season 5, but you would have to think, based on there being a Gen V season 2 that season 4 leads into, that there's going to be a Boys season 5.
Yes, absolutely. So 37 hot dogs.
37 hot dogs. I feel good about that.
Let's get into Max.
And Max, that could be anything. It could be a boat. And Mac, we are just 3 days removed from Halloween. I went trick-or-treating with my son, my cousins, their kids. And when we got back to their house, I did sneak a piece of candy from my son's
Piece of candy.
Halloween bucket. And I decided to take a Three Musketeers bar, and I was ridiculed and mocked by everyone at the house.
Yeah, thank God they did that. They got to put you in line, Goo. Listen, you can like a Three Musketeers. That's not what we're talking about here. It's opting for the Three Musketeers over the much superior options there, which you clearly did.
Mac, do you like chocolate?
I don't love chocolate. I really don't.
Okay,
I'm not.
so you're the problem.
Listen, I fully admit, if you want to talk chocolate, I'm not your guy. I'm more of a Skittles sweets over the sugary stuff over the chocolatey stuff. But even if you want to get into the chocolate stuff, like there's no way in hell that you could choose a Three Musketeers over a Reese's or a Twix. You just couldn't do it.
I would imagine that when they were creating the Three Musketeer, they already had the outer chocolate shell, and they're like, "What should we put in here?" They're like, "Oh shit, we only have more chocolate, but not enough. Fluff it up.
It's the
Put
hot
it in."
Goo, hear me out on this. It's the
Yeah.
hot dog of candy bars. They just get a casing and they just push in whatever's left over from all
You
the
know
other
what?
stuff.
I like hot dogs. I like Three Musketeers. So you
Three
might not be
Musketeers
that far
is
off.
the hot dog of candy bars. Listen, you can eat it. It's good. But if you claimed that the hot dog was the best sausage or bratwurst, you'd be fucking smacked.
I guess before we tell people where they can find us, also in your sack, you should go ahead and donate. You got to give to
Gotta give.
Arvon D, Ryan Davies, Movember page.
Now, I don't want to make anyone have the worst day of
They
their
have their
job.
jobs.
I don't want to make anyone do some more work, but I think that would be a good edit for Billy D to do is the calico cut pants with "You Got to Give" for Davies Movember.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mac and I, we used to do our own pages, but if you're just giving to Movember in general, that I don't, whatever. It's all the same charity.
And we both already have mustaches, so
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my mustache is fine. It's not
Mhm.
good. It's not bad. It's fine. Your mustache, your just facial hair grows in way better, but your mustache, the volume you have is unprecedented.
You know what's crazy is that my facial hair grows in like shit, but the mustache grows in well, and that's why I have it.
So if you grow out a beard, because it does look, it looks like you have some of the missing spots that I do.
Yeah.
I got mine's a little more up here for the missing spots, but
Yeah.
I can't.
I
can't
have
grow
the
a beard.
I have the Marv from Home Alone missing patches. Granted, I think Daniel Stern shaves it that way. I don't choose to have this.
It just takes a circular shaver and just hits those two
Yeah.
spots.
Also, I think Josh Donaldson also has that same type of beard. So
I think it's a pretty common thing. Yeah.
yeah, we're just little boys. Where can the people find us, Mac?
You can find us on Twitter and on Instagram at Mac and Goo Podcast. Every other platform, we are Mac & Goo. It's Max just 7 Goo. That includes Facebook, Stitcher, TuneIn, Castbox, Spreaker, Google Play, iHeartRadio. We're on Spotify, but more importantly, we're on Apple Podcasts. Rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. If you do that, we'll get you a free Mac and Goo t-shirt from the folks over at Watertown Sportswear. That's Watertown Sportswear on 34 Mount Auburn Street in Watertown. WatertownSportswear.com, expert screen printing and embroidery.
tpublic.com. Merch. The holiday season is upon us, and you need to buy yourself and other people gifts. Why not go to TeePublic and buy some Mac and Goo merch, or head over to my other shop. That's a chunky. Nope. No, it is still called That's the Chunky. We haven't changed it yet. We're supposed to change it to Shirt Brothers.
That would make more sense. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do that. Maybe I'll do that right after we hit the stop button.
Dude, when do you plan on putting your Christmas tree up?
I am putting it up. So today is Friday.
November 3rd.
I am putting it up on Saturday.
Yeah. I had a feeling it was going up soon. I had a feeling.
Yeah, I'm putting it up tomorrow. I actually cleaned out the area. I'm very excited to do this.
My cousin, who, my nieces and nephews, my godson, goddaughter, she put hers up. Might have been November 1st. She might have done it on November 1st.
Yeah, no. I would have so we usually do it the first Sunday, and we just started doing this last year, actually, because usually it was the Sunday before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But then it was either last year or maybe during COVID year. But my wife was like, "Do you want to put it up now?" And it was the first Sunday after Halloween. I'm like, "Fucking yes, I do." No question.
I mean, I guess if you spend money on a nice fake tree, you might as well fucking display it for.
We have a nice fake tree, and also that I have my Christmas nook. I have the perfect nook for a Christmas tree.
You do have a great nook for a Christmas tree.
That entire hallway now is the Christmas hallway. I
bought
so much shit.
The best part about your nook is like you get that corner there that you live on, and like people can see from the street too, so it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Good. I also bought, I forget what it's called. It might be like light shower or something like that, but you put it in your lawn and it just blasts laser lights all over your house.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You're going to have to upload a photo of that when you put it in.
But the issue is I just saw the as seen on TV. It looks like people that usually buy them buy like 3 or 4, and I only have 1.
Yeah, and it's not like the property you live in is small either, so you might need a couple of those.
I live in a mansion.
I didn't know how to say that without sounding like a dickhead. So there you go.
I live in, I would say, it's a normal size 2-family.
No, it's not a small apartment and house you live in it, but I if you call it big, it makes it sound like you're fucking Daddy Warbucks.
I am Daddy Warbucks. But also, I'm curious if this laser light will blast through the window or be deflected by the glass.
If you aim it at your Christmas tree window, though, it really doesn't matter.
Well, I'm going to be aiming it at my house, and I wouldn't be upset if it blasts through, because my cousin lives on the first floor.
Yeah.
If it just blasts light through their house, it'd be really funny. It'd be like Kramer in Seinfeld.
You hear some ruckus, you peek out, and Sip is just ripping the thing in half.
All right, so that'll do it for this episode here. We'll do a news dump on Monday. I'll already tease it right now. There are Marvel rumors afoot.
Ooh.
And then maybe next week we can do Loki. Maybe we'll do that. Although you have a thing, so maybe we'll figure it out.
Well, we got to get to Loki and the Marvels, both next week, both next Friday, technically.
And we didn't get a screening for the Marvels, so I'm curious.
Did they get back to you with that email?
No one responded to me.
Wow, that's going to be real annoying. Yeah, and I leave for Hawaii in like 10 days, so that's going to be a crunch.
I know. Mac's going to live there.
They have great internet there. That's why I'm moving there.
Tuesdays are goose days. I abuse kangaroo.
Bye.
Please flip the cassette over to side B to continue the adventure.